Good morning. Okay, let's roll. We are holding, today is Tuesday. Time is going. Today's Tuesday, the second day of Elul. We are holding in the portion of Shoftim, chapter 18, verse number 1. The Levites and the Kahanim, the Kahaman and the Levites, they're not, the entire tribe of Levi does not have a part in the land of Israel. Ishi Hashem, they serve the Lord offering, they serve the Lord the fire, they serve the Beis Hamidrash, V'nachlasi echelon, and his inheritance they shall eat. So Rashi says, why did it say the entire tribe of Levi? He already said Kahanim and Levim, so that is the tribe of Levi. But it says the entire tribe of Levi, whether they are whole-bodied or blemished, means whether they can serve in the temple or they can't serve in the temple. They cannot. They don't have a chelik in that. So chelik bebiza, they don't have either spoils of war, the nachla, and the land. They don't have neither. They don't get those things because the Lord is their heritage. Isha Hashem, the holy sacrifices of the temple. These are the holy things of boundaries, those eaten throughout the entire land. Mainly truma, they get the truma and the maasros, tithings, but he shall not absolutely inherit amongst us, but doesn't inherit land. Verse number 2, but they shall not inherit the land in the land of Israel with the brethren. The Lord is their inheritance, as God has spoken to him. So now she says, this refers to inheritance of remainder. This inheritance of the 5. I do not know what it means. It appears to me, however, that across the Jordan and onward is called the land of the 5 nations. And that of Sichon and Og is called the land of the 2 nations, namely the Amorites and the Canaanites. The expression inheritance of the remainder is meant to include the remaining 3 nations of the 10 who God promised to Abraham, namely the Canaanites, the Kenizzites, the Kadmonites. So 3 in this section, dealing with the priestly gifts, specifies for Aaron, expounds on this in a similar fashion on the verse, therefore Levi has no portion or inheritance. To admonish the Levites to take no portion in the inheritance of the Canaanites and the Kenizzites and the Kadmonites. It has since been found, in the words of the Kalmus, the proper version of this passage is as follows: and he will not have inheritance, refers to inheritance of the 5 nations. Bukiet of Echov, amongst his brothers, this refers to inheritance of the 7 nations. Rashi now explained this version of the Sifri. The first reference, the inheritance of the 5 of the 12 tribes of Israel. Second is to this inheritance of the remaining 7 tribes. Sorry, I said the 5 nations. 5 tribes of Israel and the remaining 7 tribes of Israel. Now Moses and Yeshua apportioned inheritance only to 5 tribes. Moses to Reuven, Gad, and a half a tribe of Manasseh. Yeshua, to Ephraim, to Judah and Ephraim, and the other half tribe of Manasseh. The remaining 7 tribes took their inheritance by themselves so it took them time after Joshua's demise. So first, Moshe Rabbeinu started off with the 2.5 tribes. Then Yeshua continued, and he ultimately captured Israel and gave it to the next 3 tribes. And then the last 7 took it after Yeshua already passed away. Thus, because this distinction between the 5 former tribes and the 7 latter ones, the Sifri mentions 5 and 7 separately. So it doesn't make difference whether, in essence, the Sifri once say it doesn't make difference whether they were given to the tribes by Moses and Joshua, and later they were taken by themselves. Ultimately, the Torah tells us that they don't have a chelik in Eretz Yisrael, whether it was given by Moshe, whether it was ultimately given by Joshua, or whether it was ultimately received by the tribes themselves who divided the land by themselves without Moses or Joshua. As it's written, as it says about him, to Aaron, he shall not inherit the land. I am your portion. And this is what the Kehanim do, since he doesn't have a chelek, he doesn't have a part of Israel. So therefore, the Kehanim need to get zivchei hazevach. They get from the performer of the sacrifice. If whether it's a ox or a sheep, he receives the foreleg and the jaw. And them all. Rashi is me'esam from the people, but not for Kehanim. So if a kohen brings a korban, he doesn't have to give the other Kehanim that part. Only if a regular Jew brings a kohen. In Shayr Seb, Prat Lachaya, this comes to exclude a chaya if you would bring not an ox or a seb. You bring a gedi, for example. Halachayim. So Rashi says the jaw together with the tongue. Those interpreters similar as the biblical verse say the zraya, which is an effect of the hand of the animal, became due to the Kehanim as a reward for the hand which Pinchas the Kohen raised against the sinner. And it says he took a spear in his hand. The jaw is a reward for the prayer he offered. As it said, Pinchas stood in prayer. And the keva, the maw, is a reward for his action against sinning woman. As it says, he stabbed them both to the man of Israel and the woman in her stomach, the keva. So that's why the Kehanim received some interpret it that the Kehanim received these three things because of Pinchas, who did these three things. Besides that, Reishid the Gancha, the first of your grain, Shiraishcha, your wine, the Vitzarecha, and your oil, Reish's gaze in the first fleece of your sheep, Saincha of your sheep, Titan Lo, you have to give it to him. So Rashi says, the first of your grain, this refers to Truma. This is what's called Truma. And although the verse does not state a required amount, our rabbi said an amount for it, ranging from a 60th to a 40th of the total produce, as follows. A generous person gives 1/40th of his crop. A miserly person gives 1/60th. And a person of average generosity gives 1/50th. They base this ruling on that one should not give less than 1/60th. And what it said, this is the offering that you shall set apart, a sixth of an ephah from a home of wheat. So there the Torah openly says 1/6, and shall separate a sixth of an ephah from a homer of barley. Since an ephah is equivalent to 3 sah, a sixth of an ephah is equivalent to a half a sah. Now the homer mentioned in the verse is the same as a kur. It's all the concept of measurements. When one gives 1/6 of an ephah from a homer, which we know to be is 1/2 of a sah, is a kur. This amount is 1/60th because a kur is 30 sah. So ultimately they figured out that when the Torah does mention an amount, how much to give, Sa'odim, when it does mention it comes out that it's 1/60th. So that's the minimum. 1/60th of your grain. Reishis gas seincha. You should give the when you share your sheep each year, give the first of its wool to the kohen. And again, and although the verse does not mention a required amount, our rabbi said amount is 1/60th. And how many sheep are you minimum to be liable to the law of the first of your fleece? At least 5 sheep. Now we know that because it says by Avigal took 5 asir, took of 5 sheep. So we know in Shmuel, in Tanakh, it's mentioned that there was a minimum of 5 sheep. Asirs here are interpreted meaning 5 sheep compel the owner and to say, give up the, fulfill the commandment of first of your fleece. And Akiva says that the minimum number of sheep liable for this commandment is right from our verse here. It's the phrase says Reishis Gaz, the nate's 2 sheep. So we have an argument in the Gemara because the Torah does not say openly how many sheep is considered the amount of sheep. So these are 2. The minimum Rabbi Akiva says 2, and the Gemara over there, the Gemara, the rabbis argue and they say it's 5. The minimum is 5. So the phrase "Reish is God 2 sheep." I'm sorry. So I'm sorry. Rabbi Akiva said the minimum number of sheep. Bible commandment derived from this verse is Gancha, which is no 2 sheep. Tzaincha, an additional 2, making it 4. Titulay is 1 more, a total of 5 sheep. Kivari bacha Hashem elakecha. For the Lord your God has chosen him out of all the tribes. Lamid l'shadis b'shem Hashem, to stand and to serve in the name of God. Who banav, him and his sons, kol hayamim, all the days. Rashi says, Lamid l'shadis. And here we learn that temple service is performed only when standing. Lamid l'shadis. That's why there's certain times in our prayers that you're obligated to stand. Continue. That completes the Chumash of the day. We now go to the Tanya of the day. And today is the 2nd day of Elul. And we do the we're holding in the middle of the 10th letter in the Geras HaKodesh. The Rebbe is explaining how Chesed and Gevurah, Mimine Eish Doslam, and every mitzvah has within it Chesed, because it's the light of God that's coming in the mitzvah. But that light of God, to be able to actually come in the vessel of this mitzvah, needs to have Gevurah, needs to have contraction. So now because the commandments were given to us by being vested in the attribute of Gevurah, with Tzimtzum, and through the contraction of the divine radiance of God. And therefore, now we understand, most mitzvahs, Yeshlam Shir Mitzumtzum. Most mitzvahs have a limited measure. We just learned today 40, 50, 60, 50th, or 60th. And so too by most mitzvahs, you'd be goodlin. The length of a tzitzis needs to be 12 times the width of the thumb. So it needs to be the minimum of 12 times the width of a thumb. And so too, the smallest tefillin you can make is 2 finger breadths by 2 finger breadths. So 2 finger breadths by 2 finger breadths is the minimum. Meruba, it needs to be square. So it doesn't make a difference how big you're going to make it or how small. The minimum of 2 finger breadths by 2 finger breadths, that's a finger, 2. So even if your tefillin can be 2 by 2 finger breadths, it still needs to be square. You can't make round tefillin. So everything has a dimension, and everything has a certain kind of a way it needs to be done. But a lulav, and a lulav needs to be dalat tvachim. A lulav needs to be 4 hand breadths. That's a hand. 4 of them. You need 4. That's the minimum size of a lulav. A sukkah, and a sukkah needs to be 7 hand breadths. So if you have a sukkah that's lower than 7 hand breadths, it's not kosher. It needs to be specifically a minimum of 7 hand breadths and higher. Actually, a lulav cannot be higher than 20 amas. So it needs to be a minimum of 7 hand breadths and as high as 20 amas, which is like 35 feet or something like that. So so that means that that the sukkah has a minimum and a maximum. So too, when it comes to sacrificial offer, you listen to the Torah. The Torah says a sacrifice has a minimum of age. A year old, 2 year old. There's a minimum. You cannot bring an animal. There's no sacrifice an animal over 2 years or 3 years old. A shofar tefach, and the length of a shofar needs to be at least a tefach, 1 handbreadth. Mikvah, and a mikvah needs to be memsa, needs to be 40 sa. So it needs to be 40 sa of water, like 75 gallons, I think, something like that, of gallons of water. There's a minimum. Needs to be a certain age. As I said, like a sheep needs to be 1 year old. And a ram needs to be 2 years old. An ox, and etc. So every animal has a time. And so too even charity, the practice of kindness with one's money. Even though that it's one of the pillars that the world stands on, chesed, charity. As is written, the world is built on kindness. Nevertheless, even stock in Shulchan Aruch is an amount. Set as a shira kotov, chayvish and mitzvah and amuvcha. Set a measure, preferably 1/5 of one's income. So if one desires to perform the commandment, the best possible manner is 1/5 of one's income. That's the maximum. Umaisa limit and 1/10 of an average measure for tithing. But then this is what's called the chesed of the world. Why? Because it's chesed within a measure, and chesed has a measure in this world. So that means chesed that's boundless. There's a measure. So even my own chesed, if I want to do chesed in the world, chesed oilam, then I have a number. 1/5 is the maximum that halacha demands me to give tzedakah. So that means the supernal degree of chesed that is drawn down through the manner of a measured charity is termed chesed oilam, the chesed of this world. What is the meaning? Pirush chesed el kol hayom. The meaning, the chesed that God endorsed throughout the day. Hamelavish ba'olam al yoteh, which is invested in the upper, the higher and lower world. Through the arousal from below, when a Jew does chesed, when he does his obligation, at least 1/5. Mitzvah tzedakah chesed, that is the precept in halacha and Jewish law of kindness that people practice with each other. Kindness between man and his fellow man draws down divine kindness into a higher and lower world, right? That's the concept of awakening from below has an action and an awakening from below above. And say, however, since this world is finite in measure, it's like even the world itself, there's limitations. The Gemara says that from the earth to heaven is a distance of 500 years. Whatever that means, I'm not sure, there's many commentaries on what that means. 500 years of what? Speed of light. What does it mean in 500 years? It takes 500 years. What does that mean? And so too from one heaven to the other heaven is 500 years. There's 7 heavens. The Gemara says there's 7 heavens. So ultimately it takes to ultimately reach the highest heaven takes 2,500 years, 3,000 years of journey. I'm not sure exactly. We're journeying by donkey, by horse, by camel, by rocket ship. Doesn't say exactly, or the speed of light. So it doesn't say exactly What is the meaning of 500 years? B'shit al fishnin hava. And also, even in the existence of the world, it says exactly that the world will last for 6,000 years. And then will be automatically a new world. Not that the world's going to disappear, but it's going to be a Elam Chadash. It's going to be a whole different reality, right? Mashiach has to come by 6,000. So that's what we know. Mashiach has to come. So there's a limit. Even God said, you can bring Mashiach earlier, but there's a limit. The world is on a time clock. So either by 6,000, Mashiach has to come, because that's when the world changes. So the world is on a clock. There's a time. This is not a situation that's endless. It's going to be a whole new world. So we can do it earlier now. We have to wait for 6,000. We should bring Mashiach now. But it ultimately, there's a time. Therefore, there is an amount, as we mentioned, even chesed, that is boundless. Even here in this world, there should be an unlimited amount of chesed a person does. There is a limit in halacha, and that is 1/5. Kumei l'shai mitzvahs, as we have to all other mitzvahs in the Torah. That completes the Tanya of the day. It's really letting you hanging a little bit, because really you're going to soon see, Hashem may come tomorrow, and we're going to see how the Alter Rebbe continues this concept. Because right now this is chesed olam. This is the chesed in the world. A Jew has to ultimately reach the chesed avarabba, to a greater love. As the Alter Rebbe will continue. But that completes the Tanya of the day. My friends, today is the second day of the month. The second day of the month is chapter 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. So chapter 10 to chapter 17. But also you should not forget that this is the month of Elul. In the month of Elul, there's a tradition by the Rebbes, all the way to the Baal Shem Tov, who said it by his teacher, Achia Shaloni, a Malach, who taught him, that said that in the month of Elul, we should start saying 3 chapters every day. Meaning, yesterday we said chapter 1, 2, 3. Today we say 4, 5, 6. Every day throughout Elul and the first 10 days of Tishrei, we say 3 chapters. And by Yom Kippur, we finish all the rest. There's a bunch of chapters. We're missing still a bunch of chapters. So there's actually in the back of the Tillim itself, there's a chart of how it's done. But right now, until Tishrei, every day 3 chapters. Yesterday we did yesterday was the first day of the month. We did chapter 1, 2, 3. Today, that means besides the Tillim of the day, we did 1, 2, 3. Today we do 4, 5, 6. Now, if you didn't do yesterday's, so the Rebbe writes in a Yom Yom, you should do today's 4, 5, 6, and yesterday's 1, 2, 3. So first do today's. Today is Daled Hey Vav 4, 5, 6, and then do yesterday's if you didn't do it 1, 2, 3. And I mentioned tomorrow, after the day you say the day, the Yom, which is the third day, you add 7, 8, 9, and so on and so forth. I wish you a beautiful day, a happy day, a healthy day, a day of joy, a day of happiness. Today is Tuesday. A beautiful day.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Oh, I want to blow the shofar.
Thank you, Rabbi. Hi, Moshe.
I don't hear anything.
Okay, Matt, you heard the show for the day too.
Yeah, but Rabbi, But
Yes.
we don't, but the thing is, we don't hear it.
We couldn't hear it.